And hello everybody, and this is k0ngbuster here, and welcome back to another video of Storytime ASMR. This time around, I have the book of Donkey Kong Country right here with me. It's a bit of the game and a tale of its own, as I'm going to read the stinger for you on the back of the book here right now. This is more or less like a scholastic book fair kind of book sort of deal. It reads, he lives in a treehouse. He's a big hairy guy, and boy does he love bananas. Meet Donkey Kong as he swings out of the video game screen and into the pages of his very own book. Unfortunately, a horde of evil Kremlings has stolen something precious from Donkey Kong. Now they've disappeared. Can Donkey Kong stop the Kremlings in time? Only one way to find out. We have to read through the whole thing. Let's get right into it, amigos. Also, on a side note, these are going to be happening more often as far as storybook stuff. I have a lot of books to read through, and I would love to do them for videos like this. I'm going to keep doing it, so look forward to them. So let's see here. It's from Troll Associates. Pretty sure they're not in business anymore. So let's see here. Oh, there's the official title. I didn't notice this. Donkey Kong Country, Rumble in the Jungle. It doesn't say that on the front. It just has the SNES art on the front of it. So let's see here. Looking for a few specific things. There are all the legalese, copyright stuff. All right, Chapter 1, here we go. The storm on Donkey Kong Island would not let up. Rain poured down in sheets. Thunder shook the tall trees, and lightning split the sky. On the ground below his treehouse, Donkey Kong stood talking to his little buddy, Diddy Kong. Sorry, it's your turn to stand watch on such a miserable sight, pal, said Donkey Kong. That's okay, replied Diddy. It was just as bad last night when it was your turn to guard the bananas. We just can't afford to let our guard down with those Kremlings, Donkey Kong explained. The Kremlings were evil creatures who had come to live on Donkey Kong Island. Their factory polluted the island's air, and lately they had been stealing food supplies from the island's many inhabitants. Don't worry about me, Diddy said. I'll guard our bananas with our life. You can sleep soundly with Diddy Kong on patrol. Thanks, kid, said DK, giving his young friend a gentle pat on the head. You're going to make me proud. Donkey Kong climbed up his treehouse. He curled up in bed, listening to the pounding rain and the wind lashing against his roof. He soon drifted off into a deep sleep. In the stormy jungle below, Diddy Kong stood watch in front of the banana storehouse. I'm going to make Donkey Kong proud of me, Diddy repeated to himself. Donkey Kong was Diddy's idol. He wanted to be just like the big monkey when he grew up. Diddy figured that standing guard against the Kremlings on a terrible stormy night was a good way to act like his hero. Here's a little illustration here too. Diddy and DK. Suddenly, Diddy heard a sound. It was not easy to hear over the noisy storm, but Diddy thought it sounded like footsteps in the jungle brush. Halt! Who goes there? Diddy shouted. There was no reply. A few moments passed, then Diddy heard the sound again. Footsteps, he thought. It's definitely footsteps. A knot formed in Diddy's stomach. His hands began to shake. Stay calm, he said to himself. DK would be brave in this situation, and so I'm going to be brave here too. Diddy stood up straight and shouted in his loudest voice, I am the brave Diddy Kong. Show yourself. If you are friendly, if you are not, then get ready for the fight of your life. Again, Diddy got no answer. He began to doubt himself. Could I just be imagining the footsteps? Maybe it's nothing at all. Just as Diddy convinced himself that the footsteps were only in his imagination, a horde of Kremlings leapt from the bushes. The fight of our lives, eh? Ha 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 ha, cackled Clump, the leader of this group. How foolish of Donkey Kong to leave his precious bananas guarded by a mere child. I'm no child, yelled Diddy Kong. I am as tough as DK, and I'll prove it. I'm afraid that is exactly what you're going to have to do, monkey, Clump said. Then he screamed, Kremlings, dispose of this pest. Two Kremlings raced at Diddy from opposite directions. He reacted quickly, just as the Kremlings reached him. Diddy jumped straight up into the air. Diddy was a great jumper. In fact, he could jump higher and farther than even DK. The two Kremlings crashed into each other right at the spot where Diddy had been standing. Diddy came down on the head of another Kremling, startling the evil creature. I told you, Krem bums, I'm tough, shouted Diddy. Meanwhile, a short distance away, DK slept soundly in his treehouse. The sounds of the struggle were drowned out by the noise of the raging storm. Back at the banana storehouse, Diddy started his favorite move, the cartwheel attack. He sprang off his hands and spun feet first into Clump. The Crumbling leaders fell to the ground. 2 more Crumblings dove at Diddy, who grabbed a vine and swung out of reach. Diddy fought fiercely, giving the Crumblings a tough battle, but he was outnumbered. Finally, 5 Crumblings attacked Diddy at once, wrestling the squirming monkey to the ground. The Crumblings stuffed Diddy into a barrel. Clump took the barrel and kicked it high into the air. "Have a nice trip, little monkey." "Ha ha ha ha," he laughed. The barrel soared far across the jungle, landing with a thud in a patch of dense vegetation. Inside the barrel, Diddy Kong was knocked out. "Quickly," shouted Clump. "We have wasted too much time here already. That mini monkey was more trouble than I expected. We must take the bananas and be gone." Here's the graphic of Clump kicking the barrel. Just like that. 2 Crumblings lifted a huge tree trunk and ran toward the banana storehouse. Using the tree as a battering ram, they crashed through the storehouse's door, smashing it to bits. As Clump stepped inside the storehouse, his scaly mouth began to water. Before him stood piles and piles of fresh, ripe bananas. "Hurry," shouted Clump. "Load the carts." The Crumblings took everything in the storehouse and piled it all onto their Crumbling carts. Then they hurried out of the jungle, taking with them the Kong's precious stash of bananas. Now we go to chapter 2. So a little bit of water. All right. Chapter 2. By the next morning, the storm had let up. DK awakened to the gentle sounds of the jungle morning. Birds calling, hippos splashing, and monkeys of all types chattering as they swung from vine to vine. DK yawned and stretched. "I'd better go see Diddy," he said to himself as he slipped out of bed. "I'm sure the little guy did just fine." DK climbed down his treehouse and made his way along the damp jungle floor. When he reached the banana storehouse, he stopped short. He stood before the smashed door in shock. Rushing in, he discovered that the Kong's entire food supply was gone. There was no sign of Diddy Kong. "Diddy!" shouted DK. "Diddy, where are you? What happened?" His voice echoed through the jungle. DK was frantic. The Crumblings must have staged a banana raid last night, thought Donkey Kong, pacing back and forth. "Why didn't I take the watch last night? If anything has happened to Diddy, I'll never forgive myself. I've got to find him," he said aloud. "Find whom?" came a rough voice from behind DK. "What in the name of monkey business is going on here?" It was Cranky Kong, DK's granddad. "Holy monkey madness. Well, you just look at that," said Cranky. "Looks like the Crumblings made off with all our bananas." "Hi, Pops," said DK. "Don't you hi, Pops me," Cranky snapped. "Can't you ever do anything right? It's your responsibility to guard our bananas. That's the trouble with the younger generation today. No sense of responsibility. Why, in my day we would." There's the graphic of Cranky scolding DK. There you go. Right there. "Why, in my day, we would..." "Pops," interrupted DK. We don't have time for this now." "Don't tell me what we have time for, whippersnapper," replied Cranky. "Why, when you were a boy..." "Pops, listen," DK tried again. "Diddy was on guard last night. Now he's gone. The Crumblings must have taken him along with our bananas. I've got to save him." "Now wait just a vine-swinging minute," said Cranky Kong. "If you think I'm going to let you rush off on some dangerous adventure all alone, then you've got another thing coming. You'd probably just botch the whole mission anyway. You need my experience if you're going to rescue Diddy and get our bananas back. Did I ever tell you I beat the time I single-handedly saved 14 gorillas from the..." "Pops!" DK cried impatiently. All right, Cranky said. "That's the trouble with youth. They're always in a hurry." DK and Cranky Kong set off together on their mission to rescue Diddy and the stolen bananas. Donkey Kong brought a backpack filled with all types of special miniature barrels. These barrels had special properties that would be useful against any enemies. "I want to be prepared when we battle the Crumblings," he explained. "That's the first smart thing you've said all day," Cranky snorted. DK and Cranky headed deep into the jungle. They followed the trail that had been left by the heavy wheels of the Crumbling carts as they rolled away with the Kong's bananas. Suddenly, a barrel came rolling along from behind them. It struck both DK and Cranky on the backs of their legs, knocking them both off their feet. "Whoa!" DK shouted as he hit the ground. What in the name of what in the name of monkey madness is the big idea? Yelled Cranky, landing with a groan. Two Kremlings stepped out from behind a large tree, laughing. That's two dopey Kongs with one barrel, smirked one of the Kremlings. One of the Kremlings sprang on top of DK. As DK and the Kremling wrestled on the jungle floor, Cranky heard a tiny voice coming from the barrel. Then the other Kremling grabbed Cranky by the arms. Get your scaly hands off of me, Cranky Kong shouted. But the Kremling just held him tightly and laughed. Suddenly, a huge four-legged beast came crashing through the dense jungle. Rambi! Exclaimed Donkey Kong, spotting his pal Rambi the Rhino as he pried the Kremling's fingers from his face. Rambi was an immense rhinoceros, with a giant head and an enormous horn. Rambi loved nothing more than smashing into Kremlings while running at top speed. Rambi charged right at the Kremling on top of Donkey Kong. He bashed the Kremling, sending him flying across the jungle. At that, the Kremling who had grabbed Cranky released. We'll continue. Here's the graphic of Rambi hitting that Kremling and DK. The illustration, I should say. At first, the Kremling who had grabbed Cranky released the older monkey and began to run. Rambi charged and caught up with him a few seconds later, bashing him into the air and across the jungle too. Thanks, Rambi, DK said, getting to his feet and brushing himself off. If there's anything I can't stand, it's Kremlings, said Rambi. They're all over the jungle. Those two are the 8th and 9th Kremlings I've bashed into today. They gave us quite a surprise, DK told him. Well, here's another surprise for you, said Cranky. Right next to Cranky stood Diddy Kong. Wow. Now, Chapter 3. And some water there, too. Chapter 3. Diddy, exclaimed Donkey Kong, rushing over to his friend. How did you get here? Are you all right? I'm fine, Diddy Kong answered. I found him right in this barrel that the Kremlings rolled at us, explained Cranky. I'm sorry I let you down, Donkey, said Diddy, lowering his eyes. I fought hard to save our bananas from the Kremlings, but there were just too many of them. You did your best, kid, said DK. After all, not everyone can be me. Thank the marker of monkeys for that, Cranky exclaimed. Now, are we going to stand around all day feeling sorry for ourselves, or are we going to get our bananas back? Cranky turned and continued into the jungle. The others followed. We'll get our bananas back, you'll see, Diddy said as they picked up the trail left by the Crumbling carts. Next time I meet those Kremlings, I'll hit them with a double-speed cartwheel. That will knock them off their feet. I'm afraid getting your bananas back won't solve all the problems on the island, said Rambi, who now accompanied them on their journey through the jungle. You must be talking about the Crumbling factory, said DK. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. Exactly, Rambi replied. That horrible place is polluting all our air and soil. Soon, no one will be able to grow any food or even breathe on this island. Something's got to be done about that factory. Cranky spoke up. In my day, we didn't go around whining about our problems. We took action. I've got some mini TNT barrels with me, said DK. I say we go blow up that factory and get our bananas back. It won't be easy, said Rambi. The factory is run by King K. Rool, the supreme leader of all the Kremlings. He's the biggest and meanest Kremling that ever lived. Even the other Kremlings fear him. Sounds like it's him or us, Sounds like it's him or us, Donkey, said Diddy. Otherwise, the island will get too polluted to live here anymore. I say we go for it. I'm with the youngster, Cranky said. Let's give those Krembums a good old-fashioned monkey barrel full of trouble. It'll be a long and dangerous journey, said Rambi. We'll have to slip past the Treetop village. It's been taken over by Kremlings, and they're ready to ambush anyone who goes past. I'll stay with you until we reach the edge of the jungle and help you get there. Then you'll have to make it over the snowy mountains in order to reach the Kremlings' factory. You'll be running into enemies at every turn, and not just Kremlings. As I'm sure you know, there are plenty of other nasty creatures on the island, but if you're lucky, you may meet a friend or two along the way. Diddy felt frightened. The thought of battling in more Kremlings, and who knew what else, made him wish he was back in his own comfortable treehouse. He looked up at Donkey Kong, who smiled and patted Diddy on the head. You okay, little buddy? DK asked. Are you ready for this adventure? I'm ready for anything you are, replied Diddy. Then he thought, I can't let DK know I'm scared. I've got to be as brave as he is. Intermission. The group moved on through the jungle. They soon reached the abandoned Treetop village. with its wooden platforms and huts built high in a great tree. It had once been an active jungle community, but when the Crumblings began their assault on DK Island, the original inhabitants had left, leaving Treetop Village deserted and dangerous. "We've got to be quiet," whispered Ramby. "Move quickly and silently, and maybe we can slip past." Treetop Village was also filthy. Its platforms and huts were now cracked and damaged. Garbage was thrown all around the jungle floor. The Crumblings simply tossed it down from the platforms above. One by one, Ramby, DK, Diddy, and Cranky tiptoed single file right under the village. Cranky lagged behind, moving slowly. He was moaning and complaining as he went. "Will you just look at this mess?" he said as he stepped through the garbage, trying to keep his voice down, but not doing a good job of it. "Those Crumblings are pigs. Keep your voice down and hurry up, Pops," DK whispered. "Don't tell me to hurry up, whippersnapper," yelled Cranky. "Why, I was walking these jungles before you were even..." DK, Diddy, and Ramby turned toward Cranky. "Shh!" They all said at once, but it was too late. On the high platforms above, the Crumblings had heard Cranky shout. An alarm sounded, and Crumblings scrambled across the platforms, screaming at each other and loading their barrel cannons. Donkey Kong heard several loud booms from above. "The Crumblings are firing their barrel cannons," shouted Ramby. Donkey Kong looked up and saw a barrel hurtling right at them. And here's the graphic of the barrels coming right at them. Illustration. All right, Chapter 4. Treetop Village, by the way, is one of the names of one of the levels in that zone, and the first Donkey Kong Country game for the Super Nintendo. Let's keep going. Chapter 4. Donkey Kong moved swiftly. He grabbed Cranky, pulling him out of the way. The barrel hit the ground, just missing the two Kongs. The Crumblings continued firing their cannons at Ramby and the Kongs from the treetop platforms. Barrels rained down around them. Cranky ran for cover in the thick jungle growth. Ramby butted away any barrels that came near him with his big head. DK and Diddy used their best moves to avoid getting hit by the high-speed barrels. DK ran, grabbed a vine, and swung out of the way of a swiftly moving barrel. Diddy jumped high into the air, then cartwheeled away from a barrel that narrowly missed him. "I have an idea," shouted Ramby. "Stand back." The powerful Rhino charged at the tree from which the Crumblings were firing their cannons. Ramby rammed into the base of the tree at top speed. The huge tree shook from the bottom to top. Crumblings came flying out of Treetop Village, crashing to the jungle floor. "Let's give them a little taste of their own medicine," said DK. "I'm right with you, Donkey," Diddy Kong replied. The two Kongs picked up the barrels that had been fired at them and furiously flung them back at the startled Crumblings. "Here, catch!" Donkey Kong shouted as he threw a barrel with all his strength. The barrel knocked over 3 Crumblings at once. "Nice shot," said Diddy. He lifted a barrel to his chest and heaved it, flattening a Crumbling who had just gotten to his feet. The remaining Crumblings fled from Treetop Village in fear, now that they were unable to do battle from the safety of their perches. "Cowards!" shouted Cranky, waving his walking stick at the retreating Crumblings. "Look at them run. Come back, you yellow-bellied lizards. I'll fight you one at a time." "Calm down, Pops," said DK. "Don't tell me to calm down," snapped back Cranky. "I know how to deal with cowards. Why, when I was your age, I once fought 5 crocodiles single-handedly. I remember it was a day something like this. I had..." "Pops!" Donkey Kong interrupted, rolling his eyes. It's time to get going." The group moved on and soon came to the edge of the jungle. Ahead of them stood a chain of tall, snow-capped mountains. "This is as far as I go," Ramby said. "You'll have to make it over these mountains in order to get to the Crumblings factory. Be careful, and good luck." "Thanks for your help, Ramby," said DK. Ramby turned and galloped back into the jungle. The 3 Kongs were once again on their own. The Kongs left the jungle and began their climb up the mountains. The higher they climbed, the colder it got. The ground grew slick and with ice and snow. The traveling became more difficult, and Cranky complained more and more. "Blasted baboon bottoms," whined Cranky Kong. "This is a fine thing for an old monkey to be doing, slipping and sliding up the side of a treacherous mountain. This is about as bad as it can get." Without warning, a terrible blizzard struck. Driving wind and blinding snow whipped the Kongs as they struggled to continue their climb. "So I was wrong," Cranky yelled. "It got worse." "So what are we going to do?" asked Diddy, no longer able to hide the fear in his voice. I don't know, replied DK. I can't see 2 inches in front of my face. A little water here. Oh, cool. Here's a graphic of them against the wind and snow. All 3 of them. Let's see. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out from above. Donkey Kong. It was Donkey Kong's friend, Expresso the ostrich. Expresso, DK yelled, trying to be heard over the wind. What are you doing up here? I was camping in the mountains, replied Expresso. You guys look like you could really use a hand. Actually, a foot. Well, really, 2 feet. Wearing my sure grip sneakers, hanging on, I'll drop down a rope. Expresso lowered a long rope down the side of the mountain. Donkey Kong, Cranky, and Diddy all grabbed the rope, holding on for dear life. Hang on, shouted Expresso. Here we go. Expresso's sure grip sneakers gave him the traction the barefooted Kongs just didn't have. The ostrich's powerful legs helped him pull the 3 Kongs up the mountain until they reached the ledge on which Expresso was standing. In front of them, in the side of the mountain, was the entrance to an ice cave. Let's duck into this cave, said Expresso. When everyone was safely on the ledge, it will get us out of the storm. As they settled down for a rest, the Kongs thanked Expresso for saving them. What are you jungle folks doing up here in the mountains? Asked Expresso. DK explained about their mission to destroy the Crumbling's factory and recover their stolen bananas. Did you hear something? Asked Diddy a few minutes later. Yes, said Expresso. It sounded like wings flapping, and I know it wasn't my wings. The flapping noise came again. Suddenly, Neki and Mini Neki, 2 evil vultures who lived in the ice caves, appeared. They began to take coconuts from their backpacks and throw them at Expresso and the Kongs. Here's an illustration of the Nekis doing their thing. Throwing the coconuts. Funny enough, they don't throw them, they spit them out. Well, the big ones throw them. The little ones spit them out. Now we're on chapter 5. Nice. All right, let's go. Chapter 5. Ouch! Ooch! Cranky cried as coconuts bonked him on the head. Get out of our cave, squawked Neki as he flung another coconut at Donkey Kong. No jungle dwellers are allowed in here. DK reacted quickly. Dodging the flying coconut, he opened his backpack and pulled out 2 of the miniature barrel cannons that he had packed at the beginning of the trip. Here you go, Diddy, he called, tossing one of the cannons to his little pal. It's time to play catch with these overgrown turkeys. Mini Neki flung a coconut at Donkey Kong, who caught it in his barrel cannon. DK fired the cannon, shooting the coconut right back at the vulture. Awk! Squealed the bird when the coconut struck him in the wing. I get the idea, said Diddy. He, too, began catching coconuts in his miniature barrel cannon and firing them back at the vultures. Let's go, squawked Neki, who was not used to having his coconuts fired back in his direction. He and Mini Neki flew out of the cave. Well, we took care of those guys, said Diddy Kong. We sure did, DK said, smiling. If you two can stop congratulating yourselves for a second, said Cranky, maybe you can tell me how we're going to get over these mountains to Crumbling's factory. Before they could answer, Expresso said, actually, you don't have to go over the mountains, you can go through them by using these caves in the old abandoned mines. Expresso painted the monkeys in the right direction. Thanks for the rescue, Expresso, said DK. The ostrich nodded and then left the cave, heading back to his campsite. The Kongs proceeded deeper into the cave, walking along narrow, twisting passageways. They soon came to a steep, slippery slope. The 3 monkeys stood at the edge of the slope, peering down into the darkness below. How in the vine-swinging jungle are we going to get down there? Cranky asked. Not that he even wanted to go down there in the first place. We have no choice, explained DK. We can't turn back, and this is the only way to go forward. Hey, Donkey, Diddy called. Look what I found. Next to a wall at the top of the slope stood a stack of old tires. I bet we could ride down on these, said Diddy Kong. I think you've got something there, Donkey Kong responded. I'll tell you what you've got, cried Cranky. You've got an idea that's about as bright as a burnt-out bulb. Come on, Pops, said DK. It won't be so bad. Grab a tire, hop on, and hold tight. The Kongs each took a tire from the pile. They sat on the tires at the top of the slope. Here we go, shouted DK as he launched himself over the edge. Last one down is a Crumbling, yelled Diddy as he started sliding down the slope. Blasted baboon bottoms, Cranky cried as he pushed himself off. I'm too old for this. The Kongs flew down the slope on their tires at high speed. "This is cool," said Diddy, as the air rushed past his face. At the bottom of the slope, the Kongs came skidding to a halt right in front of the entrance to the abandoned mines Expresso had told them to look for. "What new horror do we have to go through now?" Cranky moaned as he shakily got off his tire. The old mine tunnels were dark and damp. DK led the way, feeling along the walls to guide himself. "Diddy, you hold my hand," said DK. "Pops, you hang on the Diddy's tail so we stay together." "Great," grumbled Cranky, walking through the dark on slippery rocks, holding a little monkey's tail. "Sounds like fun to me." As the Kongs made their way through the old mine tunnels, Donkey Kong spotted a light up ahead. "What's that?" asked Diddy. "I'm not sure," replied DK as the light came toward them. Squawk! Came a sound from the direction of the light. A few seconds later, a bright green parrot appeared, carrying a high-powered flashlight. You folks look like you could use a little light," said the parrot. "I'm Squawks the parrot. I live on the darkest level of this old mine." Donkey Kong introduced his group and described their mission. "You're in luck," said Squawks. "I know a shortcut through the mines that will lead you right to the Crumbling factory. Follow me." Squawks led the way with his trusty flashlight, and the Kongs followed close behind. But as they came around a sharp bend, Squawks' light revealed Slippa the snake and Army the armadillo, two of Donkey Kong's cave-dwelling enemies. "These mines are ours," hissed Slippa. Then he slithered toward to attack Diddy. Here's the graphic right here of the enemies attacking them. Slippa and Army. Chapter 6. That's some good tea. And now, we are more than halfway through. Chapter 6. Diddy Kong reacted quickly, jumping into the air and landing on Slippa with his famous double jump. The evil snake scurried back into the darkness. Meanwhile, Donkey Kong pulled a barrel from the collection of special barrels in his backpack and heaved it at Army. The evil armadillo curled up like a ball to protect himself from the attack, but the force of the barrel knocked him far down the tunnel. "Come on," said Squawks. The shortcut is not far from here." The group soon came to a set of tracks. On the tracks sat an old mining cart. The back entrance to the Crumbling's factory is at the other end of these tracks. Squawks explained. "Years ago, before the Crumblings took over the factory, the miners used to load their ore into the mining carts and then roll them right to the factory for processing. I think all three of you should fit into the cart. It might be a rough ride, but it will lead you right to the back door of the factory." Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong climbed into the rickety old mining cart. Cranky stood next to it with his arms folded in disgust. "You don't actually expect me to get into this thing, do you?" he asked. "I've had more than enough wild rides for one day." "Come on, Pops," said DK. "We've come this far." I'm going to regret this," groaned Cranky as he climbed in next to the others. "Thanks for all your help, Squawks," said Donkey Kong. "Yeah," grumbled Cranky. "Thanks for helping us get killed." "Good luck at the factory," replied Squawks. Then he flew off. Oh, here's a graphic of them going on the minecart. Right there. Pretty cool. DK released the brake, and the cart rolled forward. "Whoa!" the Kong shouted as the old cart sped up and bounced along the rickety old tracks. They plunged down steep drops and swung around sharp bends, as if they were on a roller coaster that was out of control. "If we ever get home," Cranky cried, "remind me never to get out of bed again." Soon the cart left the mine and came crashing to a halt. The three Kongs were thrown from the cart by the sudden stop and went tumbling over each other. They landed in a heap right at the back door to the Crumbling's factory. "Is everyone all right?" asked DK. "Never been better," moaned Cranky. "Of course, I may never walk again, but..." "I'm okay," said Diddy, and I'm ready to get those Crumblings." DK examined the back door to the factory. It had not been used in so many years that the locks and hinges were rusted and broken. He gripped the door with his powerful hands and yanked with all his might. The old door came right off its hinges. "Let's go," he whispered. They slipped inside. There we go. The Crumbling factory was a dark, foul-smelling place. The sound of machinery filled the air, and the smell of fumes made the three monkeys cough. "This is the junk they're putting into our air," said DK. "Okay, here's the plan. I brought enough TNT barrels to bring this whole place down. Diddy, you take some. Pops, you take a few more. We'll sneak around the factory, planting the TNT barrels every few feet. Then we'll meet back here." Everyone agreed. Even Cranky went along without a fuss. The three Kongs were soon placing the highly explosive TNT barrels all around the factory. When DK was almost finished, he heard two voices coming from behind a large machine. He crouched down in a corner and listened. "Where's King K. Rool?" asked a giant bumblebee with big white eyes. "He's supposed to be here at the factory today." Claptrap. "Well, he's not here," Zinger replied, a small Crumbling with a long mouth and huge teeth. He's the boss, so he can do what he likes. Just because the factory is his and he thought up the banana-stealing scheme doesn't mean he can ignore us," said Zinger. "He's brought the bananas to his headquarters on the Gangplank Galleon, the Crumbling ship," Claptrap said. "He's at sea. We can't reach him even if we..." Claptrap stopped short and turned in DK's direction. "There's someone there!" he shouted. DK stood up to run, but Zinger buzzed him, missing his head by only inches. Claptrap raced right at DK. His mouth was open wide, revealing his sharp teeth. From out of nowhere came Diddy, cartwheeling at double speed. He spun right into Claptrap, knocking him across the factory floor. DK turned and slammed Zinger with his powerful hand slap attack, stunning the giant bee. "Thanks for the save, Diddy," said DK. "I was on my way to meet you when I heard you guys talking," explained Diddy. "I saw them attack, so I came right over." "Are all your TNT barrels planted?" Donkey Kong asked. "Yes," replied Diddy. "Are yours?" "All set," said DK. "Now we just have to find Pops." I'm here," said Cranky, walking up beside them. "What was all that commotion I heard?" "I'll explain it later," DK answered. "Come on, let's get out of here." The Kongs raced for the back door. When they were a safe distance from the factory, Donkey Kong detonated the TNT barrels by remote control. The terrible factory exploded in a huge ball of flame. Ooh. Chapter 7. "Yippee!" shouted DK. "We got them. We destroyed the Crumbling's factory." "Don't celebrate yet," DK said. He told them about the conversation between Claptrap and Zinger. "We've still got to rescue our stolen bananas and find King K. Rool." "So what do we do now?" asked Diddy. "We head to the ocean and see if we can track down the Gangplank Galleon," replied Donkey Kong. "Great monkey madness!" cried Cranky. "I hate the ocean. Too much darned water, if you ask me." DK shook his head. The three Kongs set out on the long trek to the sea. The following morning, DK, Diddy, and Cranky stood at the shoreline, gazing out at the whole sea. Crystal blue waves gently rolled in and broke off the soft white sand. "Now that we're here," began Cranky Kong, "did you stop to think we don't have a boat?" Before DK could answer, a large blue swordfish broke the water's surface. His sword-like beak shimmered in the morning sun, and he hung in the air for a second and then splashed back into the waves. "It's my friend OnGuard the swordfish," exclaimed DK. Again, OnGuard jumped out of the water. "Dive in," he called. "Don't worry, just dive in." Then he fell back into the sea. "I trust OnGuard," DK told the others. "I'm sure it's safe. Come in. Let's dive in." "Oh, great," Cranky moaned. "After all this, now I have to get wet." The Kongs waded out from the shore, then dove underwater. OnGuard was waiting, and he gave each Kong a special underwater breathing barrel. Breathing barrel. First off, here's a graphic of them on OnGuard, holding on to and riding OnGuard. Is there a barrel in this thing? No, there isn't. Huh. DK, Diddy, and Cranky slipped the special barrels around their necks and found that they could breathe and speak underwater. DK hopped on the swordfish's back and began to tell OnGuard about their adventures and their mission. "I know all about it," said OnGuard. "Word of your adventures is spread all over the island, even underwater. That's why I've been hanging around the shoreline, waiting for you. I figured you'd show up soon to find the Crumbling ship. Grab onto my tail," OnGuard told Diddy Kong, and you grabbed his tail. He continued to Cranky. "I'll pull you along as we go. I know where you can find the ship." Diddy Kong grabbed OnGuard's tail, then Cranky took hold of Diddy's tail. OnGuard swam powerfully through the ocean, pulling his friends along. Suddenly, they were attacked by a gang of underwater enemies. Chomps, the shark, swam right at Diddy Kong. On guard rammed into the deadly shark with his powerful sword beak. "Take that, you overgrown guppy," shouted On guard as Chomps went spinning out of control. Squidge, the jellyfish, tried to sting Donkey Kong, who used a double hand slap attack on either side of Squidge's head to stun the jellyfish. "That ringing in your head is not a phone call," teased DK. Clamo, the clam, spat pearls at Cranky Kong, but the old monkey remained unrattled. He used his walking stick like a baseball bat, hitting the pearls back at Clamo. "Batter up," yelled Cranky. "I wasn't the all-star hitter for the Kong Cardinals," Cardinals spelled with a K, by the way, for nothing, you know. Clamo swam away. Stinging from the pearls, Cranky had smacked back at him. Croctopus, the octopus, managed to grab Diddy and Donkey, but once again, On Guard and his sword were ready. "Get the point, Croctopus," as said On Guard as he jabbed the octopus. Croctopus fled along with the others. The Kongs regrouped with On Guard, and they proceeded on the last leg of their undersea journey. On Guard and the Kongs surfaced. A short distance away, they saw the gangplank galleon. The large wooden ship bobbed on the waves. Up on the tall mast, a flag bearing a portrait of the Crumbling leader, King K. Rool, flapped in the stiff ocean breeze. "That's the ship," DK exclaimed. "That's where our bananas are." The Kongs thanked On Guard for his help, and then swam the remaining distance to the gangplank galleon. The final battle was about to begin. Alright. 8th chapter. I think this is the final chapter. Alright. Chapter 8. The Kongs grabbed onto a rope that hung over the gangplank galleon's side. They pulled themselves from the water and used their natural climbing abilities to shimmy up the rope. Peering over the railing of the ship, they were shocked by what they saw. The old ship was teeming with activity. Crumbling scurried everywhere, carrying barrels full of stolen food. As they worked, the Crumblings arguing among themselves. They fought about whose turn it was to carry the barrels, whose turn it was to drop the anchor, and whose turn it was to clean the ship. Although, from the look of things, it appeared that it was never anybody's turn to clean. And there, in a huge pile on the deck, sat the load of stolen bananas. The noisy, crowded ship suddenly grew silent and still. 4 of the Crumbling's leaders strode into the main deck. Clump, the helmeted Crumbling, who had led the raid on the banana storehouse. Rock Croc, whose eyes glowed with evil light. Critter, a common Crumbling who had risen from the ranks by being extra nasty. And Crusha, a huge muscle-bound Crumbling with spiked hair. Being these 4 came King K. Rool. Behind these 4 came King K. Rool, the supreme commander of the Crumblings and the one who had ordered the banana raid. The Kongs watched this scene over the ship's railing. "That's the guy who had me put in the barrel," Diddy Kong whispered, pointing at Clump. "It's that King K. Rool I like to get a hold of," said DK. "He's the top Crumbling." King K. Rool addressed the crowd of Crumblings. "My fellow Crumblings," he said, "I have just received some disturbing news. Our beloved factory has been destroyed by those meddlesome monkeys, the Kongs." Oh, nice. There's an awesome graphic of all 5 of them right there, of all those Crumblings. That's cool. A shocked murmur passed through the crowded ship. "Silence!" bellowed King K. Rool. "This action cannot go unpunished. Therefore, we will leave at once for a full-scale attack on the Kongs in their jungle home. This will be no banana raid. We will put an end to those mischief makers once and for all. And we will put the Crumblings in total command of Donkey Kong Island." A cheer went up. DK knew they had to strike now or risk a battle that could destroy their home. "Don't carry your bananas before they're peeled, Crumblings," shouted DK as he, Diddy, and Cranky leapt over the ship's railing and began to fling barrels. The attack caught the Crumblings by surprise. Donkey Kong went into a barrel roll, tumbling along the gangplank galleon's deck like a giant hairy ball. He smashed into a group of Crumblings, scattering the startled lizards like bowling pins. Diddy vaulted high into the air and landed with a double jump right on Rock Croc's head. The Crumbling crumbled to the ground. "Try that with me, little monkey," shouted Clump. Stepping up next to Diddy, Clump smiled as he adjusted his helmet, which protected him from attacks from above. "I don't have to," replied Diddy, "when I can do this." Diddy Kong spun into a cartwheel, catching Clump in the chest with both feet. Clump flew right over the ship's railing into the ocean. "That's for stuffing me into a barrel," shouted Diddy. Meanwhile, DK, having bowled over most of the crew with his barrel rolls, turned his attention to the Crumbling commanders. He pulled out a supply of mini barrels and began flinging them at Critter. Critter made his way through the storm of barrels like an explorer fighting snow at the North Pole. "Your tiny barrels don't hurt me," cried Critter. Now he stood face to face with DK. "They don't?" said DK. "Well then, how about a hand slap attack?" Donkey Kong slammed the deck in front of the Critter with the palm of his powerful hand. The ancient wood shattered from the force of the blow, opening a huge hole right under Critter's feet. Critter plunged down, crashing through deck after deck. He didn't stop until he had reached the lowest deck of the ship. Here we go. While Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong disposed of the Crumblings, Cranky got busy loading the stolen bananas into large empty barrels. DK turned around and found himself face to face with Crusher, the strongest of the Crumbling commanders. "Why don't you throw your little barrels at me, monkey?" "Ha ha!" laughed Crusher. "How about if I throw my big feet at you instead?" replied DK, as he jumped right at Crusher. Feet first, DK landed on Crusher with a tremendous blow. Crusher just shrugged it off. "Was that a monkey or just an insect?" mocked the Crumbling. Diddy attacked from the side, cartwheeling into Crusher's powerful arms. The young monkey bounced off and landed on the deck. "An even smaller insect this time," said Crusher. "Let me show you real strength." Crusher lashed out, striking DK with one arm and Diddy with the other. The two Kongs went flying to opposite sides of the gangplank galleon. As Crusher stood in the middle of the ship, laughing, DK and Diddy realized what they had to do. They had to work together to keep this most powerful to stop this most powerful Crumbling. The two Kongs found long ropes coiled up on the sides of the ship where each had landed. They both flung ropes over the mast and made sure they were tightly secured. Then, on the count of 3, DK and Diddy Kong swung from the opposite sides of the ship towards the middle. They met right where Crusher stood, swinging into the Crumbling from both two sides at once. The combination of both Kongs hitting Crusher at once was too much, even for the muscle-bound commander. Oops-a-daisy. I closed the book by accident. Oh, I'll find my spot. Here we go. Crusher at once. Let's see here. The combination of both Kongs hitting Crusher at once was too much even for the muscle-bound commander. Crusher fell to the deck, stunned. "Way to go, little buddy," Donkey Kong explained. He said, "We make a good team," replied Diddy. "This is not over yet, though," DK reminded him. "We still got to stop King K. Rool." But the Kongs were too late. Seeing that defeat was at hand, King K. Rool had slipped away in his speedboat. DK and Diddy watched as the Supreme Crumbling commander sped away from the gangplank galleon, waving his fist in the air and screaming back at them, "This isn't over, monkeys! I will be back to destroy you!" Meanwhile, the remaining Crumblings abandoned the ship rather than face the Kongs without their leaders. DK and Diddy soon discovered that during the battle, Cranky had been hard at work. Not only had he loaded all the stolen bananas into the barrels, but when the barrels were full, he had lashed them together to form a giant raft. "Nice work, Pops," said DK. "This old monkey still has a trick or two up his sleeve," replied Cranky. "Besides, I wasn't about to just sit around and let you two have all the fun." The Kongs tossed the barrel raft over the edge and jumped off the ship into the raft. They paddled the raft ashore, where they loaded the bananas into the abandoned Crumbling carts. When all the bananas were safely in the carts, the Kongs began the long journey home, pulling the carts behind them. "You know," Cranky said to DK, "for a young whippersnapper, you did a good job on this little adventure." A warm smile broke out on DK's face. "Thanks, Pops," he said. "Yeah, well, don't go all mushy on me now," said Cranky Kong. Donkey Kong smiled again, then he turned to Diddy. "And you, little buddy, here's the graphic of all the carts, all lined up right there with all the bananas." DK said, "You made me proud. You can go on an adventure with me anytime." "Thanks, Donkey," said Diddy Kong, beaming with pride. "You know, the Crumblings will be back," DK added, "and I'll give them a good thrashing again," said Cranky, waving his walking stick in the air. "We'll be ready for them," Donkey said. "We're the best team on Donkey Kong Island." And that's it. That's the little short story in there of Donkey Kong Country in book form, akin to the video game. This was fun. And I'm excited to do more of these kinds of, storytime books, just in general. This, including Tim Allen's books, oh, those are good ones. I'm going to read those later on too. But that being said, everybody, like, comment, subscribe. I have all my links down below. Everything you need to know about me, myself, and I. Everybody, have a good one. Peace out, amigos.